All right, thank you for staying with Citizen TV. We'll get through to your feedback in just a bit, but keep them coming at Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Daybreak. My guests are already here. Honorable Geoffrey Ruku, Member of Parliament from Mbeere North. Honorable Anthony Kibagending, Member of Parliament Kitutu Chache South. And Honorable Patrick Munene, Member of Parliament Chuka Igambangombe. Now, there's still one other issue that we need to touch on before we get into the national dialogue conversation. That's on the front page of the Daily Nation, the war within, and the cabinet secretaries are on the spot here after President Ruto recently read the Riot Act to his appointees, questioning their competence. Kenya Kwanza lawmakers have stepped up attacks on cabinet secretaries who find themselves increasingly on the defensive amid questions about their future. And Patrick, I'll start with you on this. Is it time for a reshuffle? Let's start from there. Because we've been seeing a lot of back and forth between members of parliament and CSs. Are they performing up to par?
On the matter of the CSs, first I want to thank the president himself, William Ruto, because when he appointed the CSs, immediately he called a parliamentary group meeting for Kenya Kwanza. And he told us, members of parliament, I want to tell you, these are my cabinet secretaries, but I have not prevented you from doing your oversight law. Because previously what has been happening, I was in the last parliament, you try mentioning a CS, the president will call you personally and tell you, that's my person, go and administrate your CDF. The last meeting we had at State House with Uhuru Kenyatta, he led a riot act on us for trying to oversight the CSs. He told us, this is my national government, I've given you your CDF, go home and administrate your CDF, I'll leave my people alone. But William Ruto has taken a different cue. He has said, members of parliament, it's your work to oversight these CSs. And I want to thank the leader of majority, Kimani Ichung'wah, because Kimani Ichung'wah has led from the front. He has said being from Kenya Kwanza does not mean you can't question a CS when a CS doesn't perform well. Because previously that's what it was, that when there is a problem in any ministry, it was us versus them. It's our man. It always used to become our man. So even if he is not performing, it became our person. So in this government, things are completely different. And I think people are seeing what they have never seen again. And that's why you see it listing so much eyeballs, but it's not a very serious issue, it's just oversight. Because I think why it's eating headline is when it's coming from our side. Because if you look at parliament yesterday, the people who really said Ababu were not done well came from Kenya Kwanza, and they got a lot of protection from the Azimio side. But I want to say, most of the CSs up to now, and I'm sorry to say that coming from Kenya Kwanza, because it's a fact, most of the CSs have not gotten the cue of what the president wants to be done in this country. I think the president has run ahead of them. You even had them him the other day telling them that I understand your ministry is more than you do, which is true, because you'll find there's a CS up to today who has never left his office or our office to any part of this country, even to see what they do and what trickles down to Mwananchi. So I will call upon the CSs. We are in Kenya Kwanza. They might expect us to protect them, which we are supposed to be doing if they are wrongly attacked. But if they are fearing Kenyans, when we are fearing a Kenyan from Kisumu, we are also fearing a Kenyan from Tharaka Nithi. They are appearing in the floor of the House as a departure from the previous regime. Is it helping in any way? I think it's helping, because if you look at most members of parliament, having sat in the last parliament, there were members of parliament who left parliament without ever getting audience from a CS. You have a problem with education in your constituency, you have a problem with security in your constituency, you raise questions in parliament, they're answered by a fellow member of parliament. You raise a question in parliament, you're answered by a fellow member of parliament, who was the chairman of the committee. It really didn't make sense. But I can tell you now, if members of parliament can be genuine, they have got their issues sorted by these appearing in parliament. So I would urge them to continue appearing in parliament, and I would also urge parliament to be more tough and thorough with their appeal, and let it not be a appeal exercise. All right. But Kibagendi, also there's an issue of, are the members of parliament themselves properly prepared to question the CSs within their mandate? And are they even aware how far the CS's mandate goes? Because yesterday, I remember the member of parliament from Uriri, Mark Nyamita, raising the fact on the floor, saying that if we're going to question the CS over allegations on social media, then we're losing the point.
In this age of exponential change and overwhelming distractions, and of course we have overflowing schedules, what these CSs need is to be focused. Being focused is more important than them being intelligent. You realize Kenya Kwanza and the CSs have literally relegated the priorities they had said they'll do to Kenyans to now quickly amass wealth. They are quickly trying to sort out themselves to be wealthy like those who came before them.
And you have evidence on this?
To the extent, you know, this issue of constantly telling us, you have evidence, you have this, that is cliche. The truth is this, we know they are stealing.
But how? That's the thing. If
like, for example, recently, there was the corruption issue. There was the corruption issue of KEMSA. There was the issue of KEMSA, to the extent some people are sacked. There was the issue of bad cooking fat. You remember that one? That got lost somewhere. Some CSs were mentioned and some MPs, because they are close to the powers that be, that issue got lost.
You mean the sugar?
Recently, there was, sugar. Recently, they imported cooking fat. Yet we have more than we need in this country. They are importing currently sugar, and the importation of sugar is not given to sugar manufacturers. It is given to barons. We have a problem with the urgency with which these people want to be wealthy. I appreciate the efforts members are making in Parliament to question. And I can tell you, including Honorable Ruku here, who literally asks every CS questions when they come. Like he said, he's very active in Parliament, although sometimes it doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense, but he's very active. So the issue of asking members CS's questions on their mandate and how they are carrying out themselves is something that is transforming the way CSs operate. But I want to ask you, is there anyone in this cabinet of the caliber of Honorable Matiang'i? Is there anyone in this cabinet of the caliber of the late Magoha, Professor Magoha? We don't have. These people get excited with trivial distractions to the extent they forget what they're actually supposed to do. The CS for sports. Earlier in the year, we saw a lot of memes being made about him and this Talanta Hela thing and all that. And you know, lisemwalo lipo, kama alipo, lipo njiani laja. So what I'm trying to say is this. We have an incompetent cabinet, other than one or two or three who can genuinely stand up and say, we are doing our job. Although Honorable Ababu has been visible, while indeed there are issues here and there, but he's one of the CSs that has been visible and doing his job. Yeah. The other thing I would like to say is that while at it, I also appreciate that Kenya Kwanza has, like yesterday, it is the Kenya Kwanza MPs that really stood out in asking Honorable Namwamba questions, like my brother Pato said. So it means Parliament is slowly becoming the active oversight, taking up the active oversight role that they're actually supposed to. But I hope, again, even this one, it is not malice, because probably they feel he is not doing what they wish he should do. And I want to tell you, there is a huge fund in the sports fund, called the Sports Fund, that is administered by the CS for the Ministry for Sports, that can actually make people start targeting those who are there and are not doing things according to how
Which he actually asked you legislators to ring fence so that it's only used for sports activities only.
It is a
right
huge
now
fund.
It's used for many other things.
It is a huge fund that can actually be shared, especially with the Ministry of Health, where we have an enormous deficit. It is a huge fund that can be shared with a few departments for the country to progress.
All right, Honorable Ruku, is it time for a cabinet reshuffle? Or do we still, do they...
Sorry, on reshuffle, sorry.
Yes.
On reshuffle, you cannot judge them for the past 1 year.
Yeah.
Let's give them another 6 months. Let's give them another 6 months. And you realized, I've worked with President William Ruto.
Yeah.
He's an excellent worker. He wakes up early, he understands what he says, although lately he's been going back on his promises. He understands government. So when he says he understands ministries more than some of these PSs and CSs, it is true. And hence, these CSs and PSs need to work extra hard, understand their ministry, and bring about transformation that can make this Kenya Kwanza look like they're actually doing something.
So it's too early for a
Before we go to Roku, I would wish to say something. I would wish to clarify something. You know, as we sit here, me and Roku, you know, there's something I would wish to clarify here. You know, when we see that in this cabinet there is no person in the caliber of Matiang'i, what did Matiang'i do?
Excellent work.
Matiang'i was all over issuing threats. You know, we measure performance by what you do, not the media appearances and the threat to issue. Kenyans have been dying in Kerio Valley and the Rift Valley and the South Rift by bandits and all over, which he was unable to contain. It has been contained by a CS within 1 year. So we say we have, you know, we don't have ministers who back and make a lot of noise in this government. We don't have ministers who talk tough and land shows and issue threats every day, which used to happen. But we have performers in this government. We have people who are doing things. Secondly, we say the president is losing track. I can tell you, let's not talk from both sides of our mouth. Because this Azimio says now that this Kenya Kwanza is a collapsed thing, then all of a sudden they say this Kenya Kwanza is doing well, they are bringing up corruption issues in parliament. When this matter of Ababu was brought in parliament yesterday, people brought facts. They tell Ababu, you are claiming to have paid hotels that were paid by a German firm. These are facts were laid on the table, and they were defended by Azimio. This Ababu is told you bought fake equipment, fake gear for our people. The facts are laid on the table in parliament. This Azimio defense him. But when they get out, they start saying again, oh, these people are trying to bleach. And it's Kenya Kwanza who brought up the topic of this corruption.
Okay, Ruku.
I agree totally with what Honorable Pato is saying. As Mio, they have run out of agenda in a very serious manner, and that's why they will talk in a very incoherent manner. Cabinet ministers or cabinet secretaries, we have some very serious, solid cabinet secretaries who are completely in sync with the mind of the president, where the president wants to take this country to, or the direction. But also we have some very lazy cabinet secretaries. And I'm sure, probably we are talking about the reshuffle. I know the president is a very hardworking man, and he doesn't have the patience to tolerate incompetence. Maybe very soon you'll be seeing some probably cabinet secretary getting sacked by the president because they are in office on the prerogative of the head of state. We have the mandate to oversight both private and public entities in the Republic of Kenya and our constitution as members of parliament. And that's why yesterday we were asking tough questions. Members of Kenya Kwanza asking tough questions to the minister who is serving in Kenya Kwanza government. Yeah. And it is true, quite a number of Azimio members of parliament were up in arms trying to defend Ababu Namwamba, saying that there is witch hunt. We can't chant our own. We only want to ensure that there is competence, service delivery is done to Kenyans, and Kenyans are able to get value of your money. You know, I remember the other time when I was here, we were saying taxpayers' money must be spent in the most prudent manner. The Kenyans must be in a position to really, feel the effect of their taxes. Honorable Kipangeni has mentioned about edible oils, that Kenya Kwanza government is importing edible oils into the country. It is true, because we have manufacturers in Kenya who are using monopoly to increase the prices of edible oils the way they want. And we know those manufacturing companies were roped in the previous government. Senior government officials bought shares in those manufacturing companies in edible oils, and therefore the prices of edible oils kept on rising. Every day, this government decided we have to bring down the prices of edible oils. Okay. And only way of doing that is bringing cheap edible oils into the country. Yeah. And remember, there is one man who went to court trying to stop the removal of that 5% import duty of edible oils. Can you imagine why? because the cartels in the previous government, which was run by Matiang'i, which was run by the guys he's mentioning, ensure there's a policy construction of that 5% import duty or import levy to ensure there's no edible oil which can come to the country. We saw this week, or early this week, or last week, the president of Indonesia was here, and one of the things which Kenya and Indonesia are cooperating on is issues to do with edible oils. Okay. That's why Mama Pima was launched in Dagoretti, that we are able to buy edible oils, the high quality and the amount we want, and the prices which are good and favorable, so as to bring the cost of living down. All this is done courtesy of Kenya Kwanza government, and for the ministers who are not working hard and in sync with the mind and the style of the president of running thing, we will be requesting the president probably in the coming days to appoint other ministers. Because we have many competent Kenyans who can be able to serve. Okay, but even for adequate preparation, shouldn't there be a more structured appearance of the CSs? Like right now, we don't even know who's coming next.
I think it's normally structured.
It's very structured.
What we can say in terms of structuring is that media is a serious part of oversight. I appreciate the work the media has done and where the media has brought this country from. And last election where you are swayed a bit that moved to one side, which is a debate for another day. So I would wish that the clerk of the National Assembly shares the schedule and the program of appearances even to the media, so that the media can know next week so-and-so will be appearing before the parliament, and even the questions, because we give the questions earlier. So the media can also get the questions that will be put across that day earlier. But on the issue of bringing the cost of living down, you know, these Azimio people are funny creatures, because they will tell you that the price of food is very high in this country. The price of cooking oil, the price of sugar, the price of unga is very high. A price they did not see before we went to election. A price they did not see during the campaigns, which is a debate for other day, that they were not concerned about the price then. But when we say we are opening up the country for people to come and do business now, so that we can bring the cost of these things out, because what had happened in Kenya, few people are licensed to do few things. You find that cooking oil, it was like 3-4 Indians who were given the license to import oil in this country. And they are also fighting. Don't think they are quiet. They are fighting, and they won't fight directly. They will fight through politicians. I told you, politicians are funny beings. You listen to a politician here speaking of how cooking oil has been messed, how it is being imported, and he is fighting for someone who feels threatened by the opening up of the market. So allow us to bring the cost of living down. And you know, another thing I don't understand with Azimio people, they want to check the government, and at the same time, when the government starts being checked, they learn to the other side again. Like I told you what happened in Parliament yesterday. It was a very funny phenomenon. 2 people were criticized of corruption yesterday. Oparanya came out, and the CS came out. In Parliament, they defend corruption. In media, they fight corruption. But when an opportunity is presented in Parliament, they defend. Okay.
I wonder what...
Before he answers, this man has talked about KEMSA all over. He sits in the other committee with me. Up to now, he has not brought up that matter substantively in the committee. Where he sits. You have been given, Parliament has given you an opportunity to oversight the Ministry of Health. It has even taken you to that committee that should oversight the Ministry of Health. So you have all the powers to raise those issues, but they only raise them on media.
In sincere, the matter of KEMSA is something that is under investigation by the committee that we are still looking at. And when I hear my brother here, Pato, saying that, sorry, I keep calling him Pato because that's...
All right, your colleagues, so that you can find each other.
When he says they're bringing down the cost of living, that is absurd. This government is the one that is trying to ensure monopoly of certain industries so that those close to power actually are the only ones doing business. That is why the cost of sugar is so high, yet they are getting cheap imports. They sell at the same price. And they are not giving licenses to manufacturers manufacturers of sugar. They are giving licenses to barons, and we know that. Number 2, when he talks about bringing the cost of living being high then, indeed it was high. And that is why that government thought it wise to have subsidies that cushion the common mwananchi against the extremes of an economy that is dwindling. Yeah? Now, they have been refusing. They will not use subsidies. But recently we saw they have quickly gone back to subsidies, which we appreciate. We are not criticizing. We appreciate. But on the issue of monopoly, do you know as we speak, there are 3 steel companies that are closing down. Why? Because one steel company has been given monopoly to import raw materials because they are close to the powers that be and sell to other dealers. So what the other dealers have done, simple, they have closed down, moved to Uganda, where they will produce at a lower cost. This particular monopoly is even given subsidized power costs, because he's close to the powers that be. They are the only ones that import, and again, import raw materials, and then compete on retailing these particular products. So people have moved to Uganda. We are losing almost 3,000-4,000 jobs in Kenya. People move to Uganda, produce at a cheaper rate. There are more favorable taxes. It's a more favorable regime in terms of cost of doing business. And then they bring the same steel to Kenya and sell at the same price using the East African trade agreements, and the same is happening even within COMESA. So this particular government is very insensitive, but they pretend like they actually care about what Kenyans are going through.
All right.
They know how to manipulate the thinking of especially their supporters to defend even mediocrity in the way they run their affairs. It is unfortunate.
All right. Let's bring up some feedback. There's a lot of feedback.
The issue of steel, Obija, if you look at the Daily Nation, the first page, it talks about the steel makers fined 340 million for unfair price fixing.
Yes, there are about 9 companies.
Okay, so you cannot now start bringing in Kenya Kwanza administration when steel companies decide to do corrupt things within the industry as far as the steel industry is concerned. The Competition Authority is given power by the law, to ensure there is proper regulation within the different industries in the Republic of Kenya. And one of the industry is the steel industry. So if my brother here has been given a brief by some of the steel companies which have been fined 340 million, let him declare so. Okay, and let him not bring in Kenya Kwanza administration when it comes to
over unfair pricing.
Yes,
not so much.
But the question is, which government has finally cracked the whip on unfair pricing of steel?
Yes.
Is it the Kenya Kwanza government?
Yes.
Has it ever happened again?
It has never happened. So if you have to play,
I'm telling you,
I'll give you a chance, Kibageni, to respond.
The monopoly they have in importation.
You have to ensure the market forces are in place, the demand and supply, to ensure the market is not distorted. The previous administration was very good in distorting the market. And that's what I was talking about, the economic crimes which have been committed in the previous administrations, which have never been prosecuted. Some of these are economic crimes where price fixing of different commodities and very essential commodities to the good performance of the economy. It is a serious economic crime. Okay. We should be properly prosecuted, and those who are companies which are liable are taken to court.
Okay.
Okay? So I don't understand.
Okay.
When you start threatening, saying that the steel companies are running out of the market, they should play within the rules and regulations of the market.
You're diverting the story.
Yeah.
The issue is not about pricing.
Okay.
When I spoke here, and unfortunately, this language came by ship. Some of us may not understand it fully. The issue here is not about pricing. The issue is about one particular individual or company getting favoritism from government. It is because you told us not to mention names. Yeah? One company has been given monopoly to import raw materials. He's saying I've been given a brief. It is because I read from, especially if you read the Business Daily, you'll be able to know some of these issues, whereby the raw materials they used to buy at $540 per ton. Now they're buying locally at 800 shillings, $800 per ton from one individual. And then you go again and compete with him in retail. So and there are a few other taxes that have been added instead of reducing taxes to increase construction and create jobs. Now, what these manufacturers have done and dealers in steel, they have decided to migrate so that they can be able to compete with those that have been favored by government, operatives in government.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
That is not about pricing of...
and which are these that are close?
There is one company which has been always accused that to be working with senior people in government. But if you read here, the companies have been mentioned. The company which have been fined, this huge fine, have been mentioned here.
Okay.
And we can talk about them. It's Tononoka Rolling Mills Limited, Defix Steel Mill Limited. The other one is Doshi and Underwear Limited. I mean, the other one is Jumbo Steel Limited.
Okay.
And I'm sure if he was to talk about the company he's mentioning, one of those companies listed here is the one which you'll be talking about.
All right, let's bring up the feedback that's coming through. There's a lot of it at Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya. Then we had the next half an hour. We can talk about the national dialogue that's supposed to kick off again on Friday. They're supposed to be meeting, but let's see what you're saying on the topics that we've touched on here. At Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya is the hashtag Daybreak. Babu Michael says the truth is that the fight against corruption in this country is not fought in good faith. We shouldn't protect thieves. But why is it that when you are in government or seen to be in government, any of your corrupt activities do not arise? Why? Kenya Minde says, how could Azimio people have run amok yet they were not in government? We'll only see fairness once the government starts going after people allied to its side. Okay? Sir Nixon says it's time innovators come up with tools to capture corruption real time, such that offenders will have no escape at all, easing the investigations process and thus taking a very short time for one to face punishment. Batesh says our security system arresting father and mothers who is left to look after the children. The kids will be mentally affected. Police needs to be upright upstairs. This is about the governor, not the wives. They need to follow later. Okay. Kipto Ruto says dedication to excellence is crucial for all cabinet secretaries. Encouraged to see Kenya Kwanza MPs advocating for accountability across the board, irrespective of affiliations. This fosters a corruption-free and high-performance landscape. Okay. Okelo Mwalimu says, as a patriotic Kenyan, I initially refused to accept the notion that current crop of CSs are incompetent. However, having listened to MPs and President, I've realized how skewed my stance was. Most of them are hell-bent on politicking at the expense of serving Kenyans. Okay? Bobo Tieno Wino says, politicizing corrupt cases against politicians like we are witnessing with former Kakamega Governor Paranya is encouraging impunity in the highest order and derailing the fight against corruption. Remy Butia says, Kenya is the sports powerhouse in Africa. The government needs to step up and give the sports sector premium priority since more youth can be empowered and their lives improved. Brian Chemo says, Honorable Ababu Namwamba took full ownership of tackling doping challenges instead of passing the buck, and as a result, he helped the country out of international ban. He adopted a practical approach to problem solving at his ministry. Talanta Hela is working. Okay. Honorable Lilian Sioi says tribalism and corruption in sports ministry, various sports governing bodies in Kenya didn't start with Ababu Namwamba. Beating CS Namwamba is hypocritical and exercising demons to the wrong person. Okay. All right, let's touch on this issue of the national dialogue. And the Deputy President had something to say in regards to this.